It can be so frustrating when it feels like you're doing all the right stuff, but you're still not losing weight. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to figure out what's going wrong and how to fix that so you can start losing weight today. What's up? I'm Lahir Rajapaksa. I used to be pretty fat, but after years of trial and error, I eventually figured it out. And now, every day, I teach other men to do the same thing, but in a matter of months instead of years. So, coming back to the main topic, getting stuck with your fat loss, seeing these plateaus, that is a totally normal, totally natural part of the process. Everyone goes through that. Loads of my clients have gone through that in the past as well. So, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with your body. You were simply just doing the wrong stuff. But that's why we had this video. I'm going to show you exactly how to fix that. So, let's jump in. There's two reasons why you're stuck with your fat loss right now. Let's go to reason number one first, okay? Now, reason number one is the simplest explanation, which is that you are actually losing weight, but you just don't realize it. This happens because most people, when it comes to measuring their weight, they just do it whenever they feel like it. They do it once a week or once every 2 weeks, or maybe even once a month. I hope not. But in those cases, you don't have enough data to be able to accurately tell whether you're actually losing weight or not. Just because that sample size is so tiny, especially if it's just like once a week, once every 2 weeks, your body weight will naturally fluctuate because of water weight, because of so many different factors, and that's totally normal. It happens with everyone. It could be maybe you had some fast food the previous night, so you're holding on to a little bit more water. Maybe you're a little bit more constipated for whatever reason, and you got some shit in your system, and literally that reason itself can cause you to weigh in a little bit more than expected. But in reality, you may have been losing fat that entire time. So the solution to this is tracking your body weight more often. And I recommend to all my clients, anyone that seeks advice, to track every day, because then you have as much data as you could possibly have. And the more data you have, the more accurate of an understanding you can have on where your weight is trending. So what you do is you track every day. You can get any weight tracking app, any health app on your phone will have this feature. And then you can just look at the average over an entire week. Gives you a much clearer, much better understanding of your weight. And then you should also disconnect yourself from any emotions or any feeling from like day-to-day fluctuations, because people usually get a little bit demotivated, right? They see that weight spike up the next day, but just forget about it. Don't even think about it. Just keep measuring, and look at the trend over the long term. Okay, that's how you should make decisions. Don't make decisions on just one or two data points. Make decisions based on a large number of data points. So just to give you a little bit more of an idea, this is a weight graph from one of my clients. He's lost about 6 kg in 8 weeks. Look, this is like a totally natural part of the process. This is like loads of ups and downs along the way. Now, take one example, right? Let's say he only measured himself twice. So let's say he measured himself on this day and this day, right? Not much of a change. Maybe he gets demotivated and thinks, fuck it, this weight loss thing is not for me. Or maybe he measures himself on this day and this day. Maybe he thinks the same thing. But in reality, his average weight is a lot lower because of these extra two data points, right? So it's imperative, very, very important, that you weigh yourself every single day. And ideally, you should do it at the same time. This just makes sure that you are being as consistent as possible. It's easier to make it a habit. And also, it just ensures that the water weight that your body has kind of evens out over those days. Like where if you're doing one day in the morning and then one day at night after you've like eaten a bunch of food and consumed a bunch of water, the water weight will just be the amount of water weight you're holding on to will be inconsistent each day, which will make the readings not as accurate. So ideally every day, most of my clients are just literally I tell them just throw your weight scale in the middle of your bathroom, so it's impossible to forget when you wake up in the morning, and it just takes 10 seconds, less, 5 seconds, especially if you have like a smart scale or something like that, where you don't even have to enter it manually yourself. So that's reason number one. Now, let's say you are already doing reason number one and you are 100% sure, looking at a big data point, looking at a big sample size, that you aren't losing weight. Then we move on to reason number two. You are simply not in a calorie deficit. And before you click off, I know you're probably thinking, oh, I've heard this calorie deficit thing. I've tried a calorie deficit. Trust me, I've been in a calorie deficit and I didn't lose weight before. No, I do not care what you think. It does not matter whether you thought you were in a calorie deficit and you weren't losing weight. You were simply not in a calorie deficit because you are not an exception to the laws of physics. If you are in a calorie deficit consistently, you will be losing weight. Okay, that is, you are not an exception. This is true for every single person. It is not your hormones, not your genetics, not your metabolism. There are no other factors that are just magically preventing you from losing weight. Yeah, there might be factors that could make it harder, like your hormones or your metabolism or your genetics. But if you are in a calorie deficit, you will be losing weight. That is guaranteed. That is guaranteed. Okay? Now, how can we actually figure out your calorie deficit? There's actually two options we can go from here, right? If you're not in a calorie deficit at the moment, we can either consume fewer calories or we can burn more calories. Now, I always prefer option number one just because it's a lot easier to reduce calories from the foods that we're eating as opposed to trying to burn more calories from exercise or activity. Option one is basically you track all your foods for at least a few weeks, and after a few days of tracking, just look at what your average calorie intake is. So let's say it's like 2,000, right, across multiple days. Then what you do is you drop that amount by around 250 to 500 based on how quickly you want to lose fat. So let's say you want to lose fat on the faster side of things, right? Then you shoot for 1,500, right? 2,000 minus 500, 1,500, quick maths. And then that's your calorie deficit target. Because if you're having 2,000 calories each day and that's keeping you at maintenance, if you eat below that amount, you will be losing weight. Okay? And yes, tracking is going to take some extra work, but hey, if you want this transformation, it is going to take some work to get there. And I recommend do it at least for a few weeks, just so you can get a rough idea of what your actual calorie deficit target should be. And don't rely on these calculators and stuff. Just do this for me. Okay, because the calorie deficit calculators and stuff online, they will give you an estimate of where is the best place to start, but what is the most accurate, you can 100% rely on is what your body's telling you, right? If you're having 2,000 calories for sure every single day and you're maintaining your weight, if you eat below that, you will 1,000% be losing weight. Okay. Next thing is make sure that you track everything when you are doing this. Don't leave out any exceptions like little snacks or little tidbits here and there. Take everything into account because those little things that you think aren't worth tracking, they add up. And trust me, that makes a difference. So be meticulous, be like a scientist, track everything. Side note, if you don't like tracking, you can also like simplify your meals, right? The less ingredients you have, the less things you have to track, the less effort it's going to take. You could either get stuff like ready-made meals, stuff that's already pre-cooked, and you just scan the barcode and boom, that's all the tracking done. Or you could subscribe to a meal prep service. There are always like easier alternatives, but if you want to absolutely guarantee that you lose weight, tracking is the way to go. Okay? So that's pretty much everything with consuming fewer calories. Then in terms of burning more calories, the best way to do this is by focusing on steps. So right now, figure out what your current steps are. Go onto your phone. If you have a health app, it would have been recording how many steps you take on an average day. Or if you have a fitness tracker like a Fitbit or a Whoop, that's obviously going to tell you. Figure out what that is. Let's say it's like 5,000 at the moment. Shoot for about 2,000 to 3,000 above your current steps. So about 7,000 to 8,000 per day. That's your target. Go for that every single day. Now, when you're choosing which one to do, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can do both, but I highly, highly recommend you go with option one for sure. You can add in option two as well if you want, but 100% do option one. Okay, so now once you're doing that, I guarantee you, if you do that, you will 1,000% lose weight. Okay, if you do that and you don't lose weight, come back to this video and call me a fucking dumbass. Okay, and then once you've done that, you will also, I want to give you an idea of what to actually shoot for when it comes to weight loss. So you should ideally aim to lose about 1% of your body weight each week. So if you're 100 kgs, that's roughly 1 kg each week. And now that you're consistently tracking your body weight, like we discussed, you'll be able to see when your rate of weight loss starts to slow down. or if it starts to plateau again, then you just repeat the same process. You just consume fewer calories, you burn more calories. And that's a natural part of the process, because as you lose weight, there is physically less of you. So your calorie deficit has to be lower because of that. That's a natural part of the process. So if you start at, let's say, 2,000 calories as your calorie target and you lose a bunch of weight, your calorie deficit target will now be lower than that because there is less of you. That's a natural part of the process. You just have to keep adjusting as you go to maintain that rate of weight loss that you actually want. And before I forget, if you do struggle with losing fat and keeping it off in the long term, and you have no idea how to stick to this with your busy work schedule, click the first link in the description. Don't worry, it's not some crash diet or anything like that. It's just a video of me telling you how I could potentially solve your problem. It is a sales page though. It's designed to sell you something. I'm not going to hide that. But if losing fat and keeping it off in the long term has been an issue for you as a South Asian, it might be worth checking it out. Also, comment any video ideas that you have. I respond to every single comment on YouTube. And that's pretty much everything for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you next time.